Hello everybody, welcome back to Bennett Does Games. Today I have played the demo for Reina and Jericho, which promises to be an independently developed Metroidvania, which, should be exactly my kind of thing. So I played the demo for half an hour, roughly, and by the looks of it, it has a sci-fi setting. You seem to be attempting to break out of some kind of top secret criminal hideout, or maybe it's the government, and honestly, what's the difference? Am I right, everybody? So the first thing that you'll notice about this game is that in its current state it looks incredibly cheap, which is a shame, especially considering how great the art and music on the title screen was. I'm not the biggest fan of the way the dialogue is delivered in these boxes on the top of the screen. I feel like during these moments it would make a lot more sense to go for a visual novel style, have the text nice in a prettier box than just a black rectangle, presented at the bottom of the screen, and maybe a larger portrait of the character that's currently speaking. I think that's going to add a lot of visual flair to the game overall. And yeah, that's just like a little thing that I'm not the biggest fan of. But, it might still change. It's only a demo. The writing seems mostly fine. There's no grand poetry going on. People just kind of talk relatively normally, which, depending on if you're currently playing Disco Elysium, is either not a surprise or a massive disappointment. Because, wow, the writing in Disco Elysium is fantastic. Anyway, back on topic. The game mostly revolves around finding security cards that will allow you to progress to new parts of the map. It's the most bare bones Metroidvania mechanic out there. Hang on, let me just... no. Up. Okay. Maybe... No? Okay. Hang on, I'll be right back. The game does feature additional unlockable abilities, and I'll get to those in a little bit. Because first we're going to have to talk about the controls, which are incredibly stiff. Everything has a huge delay on it, which at first I thought I accidentally turned off game mode on my TV, but no, the game is just actually that laggy, which is a shame. The fact that jumping and attacking feel like they happened a full half second. They happen 100% of 50% of a second later than intended, gets a little annoying pretty quickly. Like, it's enough for me to not have finished the entire demo just because I got tired of the delay and everything feeling clunky and like it's underwater, which is a shame, but it's definitely something that can be fixed during development. Now, the biggest problem that I have with the game is when the controls collide with the combat. Now, in the demo, all you get, or at least all you get for as far as I've played it, is a sword, which you obviously use to hit people with. You have a surprisingly large moveset, like you're basically a sword character in Melee. You have swings up, down, left, right, crouching, jumping slashes in all directions. You can extend your jump with a thrust attack. And all of that is really nice. It makes the sword a very versatile weapon. The only problem is that it feels very flimsy. And the fact that if you attack an ordinary guard from behind with a full combo, you just kind of push him off to the side, and then it still has time to turn around and start shooting at you. especially if you don't realize that the character that just flew across half the screen is actually still alive. Which maybe don't do that. Don't make it look like the character is dead. I do like the 2.5D aspect of defeated enemies being dropped into the foreground. It's a nice way of reminding you, hey, you can't get stuck on them because you get stuck on enemies. They don't hurt you, you just awkwardly get stuck on them. It's not great. It's not great, but if that's what they're going for, that's fine. I do like that the defeated enemies drop into the foreground. It's just a nice way of reminding you that there were enemies, and I'm just seeing now that they can also drop into the background. Yeah, okay. So enemies are removed from the playing plane, but they're still there as a little reminder that you've been here. I do believe they reset every time you reach a checkpoint, though. Yeah, the biggest problem with the combat, and the thing that took me the longest to get used to, is the fact that in order to perform a dodge maneuver, like either a dodge roll or a backdash, you have to hold down and then either press LT or the jump button, which is incredibly clunky. And if an enemy, winds up an attack, then by the time you've crouched and pressed A, the attack is already going to have connected with you. And that just makes dodging enemies feel really slow and molassy. It's not particularly enjoyable, I have to say. I think for the full release, I strongly recommend just have a dodge button or have the option for a dodge button. Just a quick press of a button, you do a forward roll, or you press backwards, you do a backdash. Just have that option. And I know this is going to make the game easier, but considering that there are already some pretty nice accessibility options from what I've seen, you don't seem to be too concerned with your game being too accessible or too easy, quote unquote. Now, the accessibility options were kind of neat to see. I'm going to have to... Okay, I found them. I started scrubbing through the videos, through the gameplay footage that I recorded while doing the voiceover, so I can, remember to say more things. There are 3, I believe, well thought out accessibility options here. One of them makes it so that you don't lose health when you fall into, well, in this game it's crystals, but a spike pit. In Zelda or Hollow Knight, when you fall into lava and then you respawn and you lose a heart, you can set the game so that doesn't hurt you when that happens. And that's nice for people who are bad at platforming or who are incredibly bad at remembering where platforms are, like I was at that one part. There is an option to enable regenerating health, which does not allow you to fully regenerate all of your health, but only up to half of the damage you've taken. That sounds like a great option. It's obviously not going to be abusable by people who have to go fast, but slower, more methodical players, or players who have to play more slowly for whatever reason, can probably appreciate the passive health increase over time to just, allow them to get through the game more easily, which there's nothing wrong with, by the way. And most interestingly, and something that they actually apparently put effort in, I have to admit I didn't try any of the accessibility options, but I believe them that they work. Let's just put it that way. I believe the developers aren't lying about the accessibility options. And the defense boost assist option makes it so that every time you die, your defense increases, so you'll start taking less damage. And every time you defeat a boss, your damage resistance will slowly but surely lower back down to the base level. So it's a very elegant implementation of the scaling difficulty you see in, most famously Resident Evil 4. So I think that's great. A lot of Metroidvanias, like Hollow Knight, like Ender Lilies, of which I have a review coming out tomorrow, are very challenging. So opening that genre up to players who are less experienced or for whatever reason less dexterous or less patient is great. I think the Metroidvania is a great genre, and I hope that more and more people get to enjoy it over time. So good on you. There's no reason to make every Metroidvania brutally hard. Now, unfortunately, after all this praise I just gave the game, I have to get back to, whether or not I have high hopes for it and whether or not I think it's worthy of a spot on your wish list or a follow on Twitter so you keep up to date with the game. I'm personally going to follow the developers, see if they respond well to feedback, and see what the rest of the Metroidvania Goober Squad thinks. Okay, if you have a YouTube channel, you can now apply to be a member of the Metroidvania Goober Squad, and then we can do a podcast one day. Yep, that's the takeaway from the video. So, unfortunately, the game does feel incredibly clunky. A platformer where everything has a really awkward delay just doesn't feel particularly snappy. The power-ups that I found were you jump slightly higher and you can do wall jumps now. So I don't know if that's indicative of the power-ups that are coming later in the game, but I wasn't super impressed by that. The visual design of the worlds is kind of drab. Everything's really dark, which, is moody and atmospheric when there's some fluorescent plants and mushrooms, which are technically not plants in case you didn't know. Whenever those light up the world, or some crystals, that's kind of a nice effect, although there isn't really any impressive lighting going on here. It doesn't seem to really affect the protagonist much. Okay, she's about to walk past some blue lights. She lit up slightly. But yeah, it's really clunky. The animation quality is not great. The music on the title screen was excellent. The music in the actual game was very forgettable. One of my biggest problems with the game is how incredibly slow and flow-breaking the ledge grab animation is. Your character comes to a complete halt and then spends maybe a full second just climbing up a small ledge, and all of your momentum is just gone. And that's definitely something that I think needs to be improved. The character is very clearly supposed to be skilled and capable, so I don't know why you would make her so slow. I don't think there's any harm in speeding up some things that really are just annoying. I don't know. This game is incredibly rough. It doesn't have any immediate wow factors just yet. It could end up being a perfectly serviceable Metroidvania, which, would be swell. But considering how many amazing games there are in this genre these days, especially from indies, yeah, it's going to be a little difficult to compete. You wish the developers best of luck. For now, I think I'll keep an eye on the game for you, so make sure you subscribe. And if it turns out any better than it is right now, then I'll make another video telling everyone that I was wrong and the game is actually pretty decent. It's meh right now. It's pretty meh.